in to listen. I thank you. If I inadvertently make any mistakes, upfront, I want to ask you for your forgiveness. As our Chinmaya Mission pledge says, we stand as one family, bound to each other with love and respect. Before we get in to Bhagavad Gita, I just want to point out that there are hundreds of Gitas composed by many saints and thinkers. Some common examples are Vidura Gita in Mahabharata, Rama Gita in Ramayana, Hamsa Gita in Bhagavatam, Guru Gita, Shiva Gita, Ashtavakra Gita, Avaduta Gita, etc. In the present times, there is also Ramana Gita, composed by Sri Kavya Kanta Ganapati Muniji on the teachings of Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi. But our topic today is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. It's a dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna, found right in the middle of Mahabharata. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam. When we say that, it is right in the middle of Mahabharata. Srimad Bhagavad Gita is considered a universal book of guidance. Bhagavad Gita talks about you, talks about me and our problems. It answers questions like, who am I? How can I be happy? How do I get rid of my anger? How do I handle life situations, etc.? What it does not talk about is about poverty issues, women's literacy issues. It talks about universal issues of life relevant at all times, circumstances, irrespective of a person's gender, race, color, nationality, and culture. Srimad Bhagavad Gita is considered to be the third source of scriptural authority in the Prasthanatrayi. You know, there are three scriptural authority in our Shastras that tells humanity how to exit from this cycle of birth and death called samsara. When you even board a flight, the first thing they show you here are the exits in their safety instructions, right? So these Prasthanatrayi is showing how to exit out of samsara. So the first one are the Upanishads. They are Shruti Prasthana or Shruti Pramana, a means of knowledge with an emphasis on Shruti. That which is heard, it is called as an Apurusheya Grantha. Then we have Brahma Sutras called Nyaya Prasthana or Nyaya Pramana, a means of knowledge with an emphasis on logic. And we have Bhagavad Gita. It is called as Smriti Prasthana or Smriti Pramana, means of knowledge with an emphasis on the Smritis, that which is remembered. Bhagavad Gita is known as the Lord's Song, composed by sage Veda Vyasa Muni, scribed by Bhagavan Ganesha himself. There are traditionally about 700 slokas, one sung by Dhritarashtra, 41 verses by Sanjaya, 84 verses by Arjuna, 574 by Bhagavan Shri Krishna. I know some of you are taking notes and adding it feverishly at your homes. Don't worry, I did the math. It adds up to 700. Widely accepted version of Gita also contains 701 verse. The spiritual teacher, Sri Madhusudana Saraswati ji, who is the author of Gita Dhyanam that we just recited, wrote also the concluding colophon at the end of each chapter when we say, Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Purushottama Yogo Nama Panchadashodhyayah. He added that question at the beginning of chapter 13. Arjuna Uvacha Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Kshetram Kshetragnameva cha Etad Veditumicchami Jnanam Jneyam cha Keshava. There are 18 chapters in Bhagavad Gita. Gita is found in the epic Mahabharata in Bhishma Parva from chapters 25 to 42 of the 6th canto. It is considered most profound, poetic, popular, philosophical composition in our Sanskrit literature. It is the only work of philosophy in the world that is delivered right in the middle of a battlefield, and such a great allegorical significance that I'm going to take you through today. Its teachings are timeless. They are applicable at a universal level. It addresses humanity everywhere, at all times, in all aspects. That is why it is called as a Margadarshaka Grantha, a universal book of guidance. Being universal in nature, Bhagavad Gita applies to all professions. It's a guide to business management, a handbook of interpersonal relationships, the art of man-making, as our Pujya Gurudev called it. Gita shows us three main paths to divinity. The path of action, called Karma Yoga, the path of devotion, called Bhakti Yoga, and the path of knowledge, called Jnana Yoga. Now let us dwell on the glory of Bhagavad Gita a little bit. This yajna is not focused on any one particular chapter, but it is the essence of the entire Bhagavad Gita. The word Srimad means inspirational, beautiful, glorious. In the Dhyana shloka, when we say Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam, Sriman Narayana himself has taught this to Arjuna. In this shloka, Bhagavad Gita is addressed as Amba, mother. Ambatvam anusandadami. So many mothers are sitting in the audience. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers in the audience. Our Pujya Guruji, in his greeting to the mother, he says, if you were to say God, define God in one word, you would say Om. If you were to define in the Vyavaharik world, God, you would say mother, Matrudevo Bhava. What do mothers do? They love their children so much. And they're always worried about their children. Gita here is addressed as Mother Amba, like Gomata, Bharat Mata, Ganga Mata, Gita Mata. Mother always tries to please her children, and so is Bhagavad Gita. Once somebody asked our Pujya Guruji, Swami Tejomayananji, that I have read Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna taught this to Krishna, he said. Huh? Anybody hearing that statement would have reacted quite differently. But our Pujya Guruji, his simplicity and his compassion is at a different level of subtlety. He said in the 10th chapter, Bhagavan Shri Krishna says in 10-37, Pandavanam Dhananjayaha, Muninam Vedavyasaha, Vrishninam Vasudevaha Asmi. So he asked, he is right. Who is teaching who? When you have the speaker, Vakta, who is divine, Shrota, the listener is divine, the author, Vedavyasa Muni, the composer is divine, Vyasaya Vishnu Rupaya, Vyasa Rupaya Vishnave. The song Celestial that comes out of it is obviously divine. Another speciality of Bhagavad Gita is the Lord himself declares, Gita me Hrudayam Partha. The Gita is my very own heart. In Bhaja Govindam, Adi Shankaracharya ji says, Bhagavad Gita Kinchita Dhita Ganga Jalalava Kanika Pita Sakruta Piyena Murari Samarcha Kriyate Tasya Yamena Nacharcha. Even if one has studied a little bit of Gita, one who has sipped a little bit of Ganga, Ganga stands for Jnana Ganga, one who worships our Murari, our Bhagavan Krishna, there is no discussion when Yama, the Lord of Death, comes to you. One time, a devotee asked our Pujya Gurudev, Swamiji, I have gone through Gita many times. And our Pujya Gurudev smilingly said, but has Gita gone through you? So, let's do a little bit of introduction into the Mahabharata. In our scriptures, we say we have Shrutis, Shruti Shastra, that are the Vedas. Then you have Smritis like Manusmriti, Yagnavalkya Smriti, etc. Kautilya Smriti. Bhagavad Gita, although Bhagavan Krishna remembered and taught this to Arjuna, it enjoys the status of Shruti in our scriptures. Then there are Itihasas and Puranas. Mahabharata is considered one of the Itihasas. Ramayana is another one. It is considered the largest epic in the world. Itihasa, thus it happened. It is also called as the Panchama Veda. It was written by sage Veda Vyasa Muni, and has 100,000 verses. Mahabharata has 18 chapters called Parvas. The war between Pandavas and Kauravas took place for 18 days. Bhagavad Gita is in the middle of Mahabharata, which is also divided into 18 chapters. The number of Puranas that Veda Vyasa Muni wrote are also 18 in number. So the Hindu tradition, the number 18 stands for Jaya, victory. So that's why Mahabharata is also called as Jaya Bharata. Victory of good over evil. Yatho dharmaha tato jayaha. Meaning, where there is dharma, there is righteousness. Yatra yogeshwara krishnaha, yatra partho dhanurdharaha, tatra shrir vijayo bhutihi, dhruvani tirmatir mama. Where there is dharma, there is the Lord. Where there is Lord, there is victory. See, Vyasa Bhagavan, he goes to Brahmaji and tells him that I have given humanity all of the Vedas codified into 4 parts and so on. I have given them Upanishads. I have given them Brahma Sutras. But there are not enough people putting effort to learn and get out of samsara. What should I do? And Brahmaji suggests, why don't you write this in the story format, in an aitihasik format, such that people can understand. And thus, the result of that creation of 100,000 verses of Mahabharata, which depicts all sorts of possible human emotions in its naked form. In Kathopanishad, there is the main story of Bhagavad Gita Upadesha. There is this allegory of Ratha Kalpana that is translated into the Gita Upadesha, which every Hindu household, we have a wall hanging or some form of beautiful art form, like the one you see behind me. We need to know a little bit background of Mahabharata. There were 100 sons of the blind king Dhritarashtra. The Kauravas and the 5 sons of brother Pandu, who were the Pandavas. I'm going to tell you not going to tell you the whole story of Mahabharata, but Pandavas were basically good people who had some weaknesses. The Kauravas not only had weaknesses, but they were also wicked. There was Kutilata. According to the prevailing constitution at that time in Hastinapura, Dhritarashtra, being born blind, was not eligible to be the king. And also Pandu had Lukodharma, and Vidura was born to the maid servant, Dasiputra. As we know, Lord always supports righteousness. So this was the battle between Dharma and Adharma, a war between righteousness and evil. But this Mahabharata you can take it in an abstract form and say it is a war within all of us. The noble and negative thoughts reside in us. Dhritarashtra stands for that mind which is born blind to the truth. Gandhari could have changed the situation, but she chose to act blind. Kurukshetra and Dharmakshetra represents the spiritual field for Jiva to evolve. The first word of Bhagavad Gita, Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mama